The General Directorate for External Security is France's external intelligence agency. Operating under the direction of the French Ministry of Defense, the agency works alongside the DGSI in providing intelligence and national security, notably by performing paramilitary and counterintelligence operations abroad. As with most other intelligence agencies, details of its operations and organization are not made public. Its head office is in the 20th arrondissement of Paris. Former U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates has said that in terms of the next capable next to the Chinese are probably the French. And they've been doing it a long time. It is the French equivalent to the United Kingdom's MI6 and the United States CIA. History Origins The DGSI can trace its roots back to 1947, when a central external intelligence agency, known as the SDECE, was founded to combine under one head a variety of separate agencies some, such as the Douanier Bureau, dating from the time of Napoleon III and some, such as the BCRA, from the Free French of World War II. It remained independent until the mid-1960s, when the SDECE was discovered to have been involved in the kidnapping and presumed murder of Mehdi Ben Barka, a Moroccan revolutionary living in Paris. Following this scandal, the agency was placed under the control of the French Ministry of Defense. It was restructured in 1981, eventually acquiring its current name in April 1982. In 1992, most of the defense responsibilities of the DGSI, no longer suitable to the post-Cold War context, were transferred to the Military Intelligence Directorate, a new military agency. Combining the skills and knowledge of 5 military groups, the DRM was created to close the intelligence gaps of the 1991 Gulf War. Cold War-era rivalries The SDECE and DGSI have been shaken by numerous scandals. In 1968, for example, Philippe Thibault de Vougelay, who had been an important officer in the French intelligence system for 20 years, asserted in published memoirs that the SDECE had been deeply penetrated by the Soviet KGB in the 1950s. He also indicated that there had been periods of intense rivalry between the French and American intelligence systems. In the early 1990s, a senior French intelligence officer created another major scandal by revealing that the DGSI had conducted economic intelligence operations against American businessmen in France. A major scandal for the service in the late Cold War was the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior in 1985. The Rainbow Warrior was sunk by operatives in what the service named Operation Satanique, killing one of the shipmates. The operation was ordered by the French President François Mitterrand. New Zealand was outraged that its sovereignty was violated by an ally, as was the Netherlands since the killed Greenpeace activist was a Dutch citizen and the ship had Amsterdam as its port of origin. Political controversies The agency was conventionally run by French military personnel until 1999, when former diplomat Jean-Claude Cusserin was appointed its head. Cusserin had served as an ambassador to Turkey and Syria, as well as a strategist in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Cusserin reorganized the agency to improve the flow of information, following a series of reforms drafted by Bruno Joubert, the agency's director of strategy at that time. This came during a period when the French government was formed as a cohabitation between left and right parties. Cusserin, linked to the Socialist Party, was therefore obliged to appoint Jean-Pierre Poquin of the Gaullist Party as head of the Intelligence Directorate. Being conscious of the political nature of the appointment, and wanting to steer around Poquin, Cusserin placed one of his friends in a top job under Poquin. Alain Chouet, a specialist in terrorism, especially Algerian and Iranian networks, took over as chief of the Security Intelligence Service. He had been on post in Damascus at a time when Cusserin was France's ambassador to Syria. Chouet began writing reports to Cusserin that bypassed his immediate superior, Poquin. Politics eventually took precedence over DGSI's intelligence function. Instead of informing the president's staff of reports directly concerning President Chirac, Cusserin informed only Socialist Prime Minister Lionel Jospin, who was going to run against Chirac in the 2002 presidential election. Poquin learned of the maneuvers only in March 2002 and informed Chirac's circle of the episode. He then had a furious argument with Cusseron and was informally told he wasn't wanted around the agency anymore. Pocken nonetheless remained Director of Intelligence, though he no longer turned up for work. He remained ostracized until the arrival of a new DGSE director, Pierre Brockand, in August 2002. Organization. Divisions. The DGSE includes the following services: Directorate of Administration, Directorate of Strategy, Directorate of Intelligence, Political Intelligence Service, Security Intelligence Service. Technical Directorate, Directorate of Operations, Action Division. Action Division. The Action Division is responsible for planning and performing clandestine operations. It also fulfills other security-related operations such as testing the security of nuclear power plants and military facilities such as the submarine base of Vielle-Long, Bretagne. The division's headquarters are located at the fort of Noisy-le-Sec. Installations. The DGSE headquarters, codenamed CAT, are located at 141 Boulevard Mortier in the 20th arrondissement in Paris, approximately 1 kilometer northeast of the Père-Lachaise cemetery. The building is often referred to as La Piscine because of the nearby Piscine des Tourelles of the French Swimming Federation. A project named Fort 2000 was supposed to allow the DGSE headquarters to be moved to the fort of Noisy-le-Sec, where the Action Division was already stationed. However, the project was often disturbed and interrupted due to lacking funds, which were not granted until the 1994 and 1995 defense budgets. The allowed budget passed from 2 billion francs to 1 billion, and as the local workers and inhabitants started opposing the project, it was eventually cancelled in 1996. The DGSE instead received additional premises located in front of the Piscine des Tourelles. Size and importance. In 2007 the DGSE employed a total of 4,620 agents. In 1999 the DGSE was known for employing a total of 2,700 civilians and 1,300 officers or non-commissioned officers in its service. It also benefits from an unknown number of voluntary correspondents both in France and abroad. These do not appear on the government list of civil servants and are referred to with the title of Honorable Correspondent. The DGSE is directly supervised by the Ministry of Defense. Budget. The DGSE's budget is entirely official. It generally consists of about a 500 m, in addition to which are added special funds from the Prime Minister. How these special funds are spent has always been kept secret. Some known yearly budgets include 1991 FRF 0.9 BN, 1992, FRF 1 BN, 1997, FRF 1.36 BN, 1998, FRF 1.29 BN, 2007, 450 million European euros, plus 36 million in special funds. 2009, 543.8 million European euros, plus 48.9 million in special funds. According to Claude Silbertson, one of its former directors, the agency's budget is divided in the following manner: 25% for military intelligence, 25% for economic intelligence, 50% for diplomatic intelligence. Directors. Pierre Marion, Admiral Pierre Lacoste, General Rena Copyright Book General Frena Section War Mermet, Claude Silbertson, Jacques Duarte, Jean-Claude Cusseron, Pierre Brockand, Irad Corbin de Mangou, Bernard Bajolet. Logo. As of July 18, 2012 the organization had inaugurated its current logo. The bird of prey represents the sovereignty, operational capacities, international operational nature, and the efficiency of the DGSE. France is depicted as a sanctuary in the logo. The lines depict the networks utilized by the DGSE. Activities. Range. Various tasks and roles are generally appointed to the DGSE: intelligence gathering, HUMINT, through formal agents and voluntary correspondence, SIGINT, through networks such as Frenchelon, space imagery analysis. Support for HUMINT. Special operations, with the help of the 13th Parachute Dragoon Regiment. Counterintelligence on French soil is not conducted by the DGSI but by the Direction-Centrale du Renseignement into Copyright RIA. Known operations 1970s, the agency also preceded the CIA in anticipating the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in December 1979. In Operation Barracuda, the DGSI staged a coup d'état copyright attack against Emperor Jean-Bar copyright del Picasso in the Central African Republic in September 1979, and installed a pro-French government. Between the early 1970s to the late 1980s, the DGSI had effectively planted agents in major U.S. companies, such as Texas Instruments, IBM and Corning. Some of the economic intelligence thus acquired was shared with French corporations, such as the Compagnie des Machines Bull. 1980s, working with the DST in the early 1980s, the agency exploited the source farewell, revealing the most extensive technological spy network uncovered in Europe and the United States to date. This network had allowed the Soviet Union to gather significant amounts of information about important technical advances in the West without the knowledge of Western intelligence agencies. The DGSE exploited a network Nyakuba, which facilitated the sale of 43 Mirage 2000 fighter jets by French defense companies to India for a total of more than $2 billion, and the acquisition of information about the type of the armor used on Soviet T-72 tanks. Operation Satanic, a mission aimed at preventing protests by Greenpeace against French nuclear testing in the Pacific through the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior in Auckland, New Zealand on July 10, 1985. The ship was successfully sunk, after a small explosion was set off to scare people away, but journalist Fernando Pereira returned just as the sinking began, and subsequently drowned. New Zealand police uncovered the plot after they captured 2 DGSE agents, who pleaded guilty to manslaughter and arson. French relations with New Zealand were sorely strained, as they threatened New Zealand with EEC sanctions in an attempt to secure the agents' release. Australia also attempted to arrest DGSE agents to extradite them. The incident is widely remembered in the region and has taken on almost mythical proportions. 1990s, during the Rwandan Civil War, the DGSE had an active role in passing on disinformation, which resurfaced in various forms in French newspapers. The general trend of this disinformation was to present the renewed fighting in 1993 as something completely new and as a straightforward foreign invasion, the rebel APF being presented merely as Ugandans under a different guise. The disinformation played its role in preparing the ground for increased French involvement during the final stages of the war. Reports in 2006 have credited DGSE operatives for infiltrating and exposing the inner workings of Afghan training camps during the 1990s. One of the spies employed by the agency later published a work under the pseudonym Omar Nasri, uncovering details of his life inside al-Qaeda. In a controversial article published by the Center for Research on Globalization, Wayne Madsen claims to have obtained a leaked DGSE report which states that the CIA and Britain's MI6 maintained effective control of an important al-Qaeda training camp in Afghanistan as late as 1995, fully 2 years after the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. 2000s, a DGSE general heads the Alliance Base, a joint CTIC set up in Paris in cooperation with the CIA and other intelligence agencies. Alliance Base is known for having been involved in the arrest of Christian Gainch-Zarski. In 2003, the DGSE was held responsible for the outcome of OPA copyright Ration 14 Joliet, a failed mission to rescue Ingrid Betancourt from FARC rebels in Colombia. In 2004, the DGSE was credited for liberating 2 French journalists, Georges Melbrunot and Christian Chisnot, who were held as hostages for 124 days in Iraq. DGSE personnel were part of a team that arranged the release on June 12, 2005 of French journalist Florence Aubenas, held hostage for 5 months in Iraq. DGSE was said to be involved in the arrest of the 2 presumed killers of 4 French tourists in Mauritania in January 2006. In 2006, the French newspaper L'Histoire copyright publicain acquired an apparently leaked DGSE report to the French President Jacques Chirac claiming that Osama bin Laden had died in Pakistan on August 23, 2006, after contracting typhoid fever. The report had apparently been based on Saudi Arabian intelligence. These death allegations were thereafter denied by the French Foreign Minister Philippe Douste-Blazy and Saudi authorities, as well as the CIA bin Laden specialist Michael Shah. In June 2009, the DGSI uncovered evidence that 2 registered passengers on board Air France Flight 447, which crashed with a loss of 228 lives in the vicinity of Brazil, were linked to Islamic terrorist groups. 2010s, November 2010, 3 operatives from DGSE service operations botched an operation to burgle the room of China Eastern Airlines boss Xiaohong Liu at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Toulouse. Failure of the operation resulted in the suspension of all of SO's activities and the very survival of the unit was called into question. SO only operates on French soil, where it mounts secret HUMINT operations such as searching hotel rooms, opening mail or diplomatic pouches. In the year 2010 November, the DGSE has been training agents of Bahrain's national security, the intelligence service which is trying to subdue the country's Shiite opposition protests. Bahrain's Special Security Force also benefits from a French advisor seconded from the Police Nationale who is training the Special Security Force in modern anti-riot techniques. March 2011, the DGSE sent several members of the service action to support the Libyan rebels. However, most of the agents deployed were from the Direction des Operations Service mission. The latter unit gathers intelligence and makes contact with fighting factions in crisis zones. In January 2013, service action members attempted to rescue one of its agents held hostage. The rescue was a failure as the hostage was killed alongside 2 DGSE operators. DGSE officers or alleged officers equals. See also. List of intelligence agencies of France, Alliance Base, Bob Daynard, a French mercenary, Direction Gar Copyright NAR Copyright Rail de Lazare Copyright Curator Copyright Inter Copyright Relia. References. External links, DGSE section of French Ministry of Defense website, DGSE section of French Ministry of Defense website, Direction-General for External Security at the Wayback Machine, Direction-General for External Security Archive copy at the Wayback Machine, DGSE on FAS.org.